What's up, everybody? It's Greg Birch with Delta Financial, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about giving you coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers. Today, I've got the one, the only, Mr. Joey Watkins. Yeah, so how you like that? How you like that applause, bro?
Good. I'll take it.
So Joey, how you doing, man? You just got back from a birthday cruise.
Yeah, man, it was great. 7 days of, as an entrepreneur, I don't know how to not work or be involved, but Wi-Fi on the boat, if you guys have never been on one, don't count on it, and make sure you put your phones on airplane mode, because I had 3 devices with me and only one of them was, and so I got hit with some hefty charges, even though I never actually used them on the boat when I got home. So lesson learned, but yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Good time.
That's good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's good that you were able to do that. It's good to have you back now. And since you've been back, you actually you did a joint appointment with one of our agents, Rodney Knorr. And I want to break that out, because it was a pretty unique situation, and I want to kind of break all this out so we can talk about the different concepts, both with a leadership aspect, but also the sales tactics that you used and were able to help Rodney with.
Perfect. Yep.
So talk a little bit about the appointment at first.
Okay. So previous to myself jumping on with Rodney on the call with the husband and wife potential clients, so he had met with them. I think it was 2 or 3 days before I returned from vacation, and he had some concerns, and he didn't really feel super comfortable in a few different areas, because he heard some things through going through the financial inventory. And they had made some comments about those things they had. Well, the husband, they were looking for coverage for him mostly. The wife was considering it. They have a couple of things in place, some IULs from about 15 years ago. And so his first initial call was on a Zoom, but the camera was never on. The client was very pushed back after kind of getting a little more information from the agent Rodney before we met with the clients again, pulling me in. We discovered through her email address you used that it was, I'm about 99% sure she was a prior agent. She was very much open to the fact that she was self-employed and was very close to retiring, but would not say what she did for work. And so it just kind of, so you can kind of be doing this for a while, you can kind of pick up on that. But so she was very pushed back. The husband, she was kind of like, running the show. Husband was in the background, just kind of would chime in with a, tidbit here and there. And she'd kind of just take the reins with Rodney. And so he was able to get some information. And so when I returned from vacation, he reached out to me and said, hey, I really want to kind of dig into this scenario, because the husband has had a bypass 12 years before. He was recently on insulin about 1.5 years ago, came off of it. So now, he's doing better health-wise, but there's a lot of implications regarding different carriers. The amount of coverage they wanted was pretty hefty. It was in the couple 100,000 range, and almost age 70. And so with those health complications, we're brokers, so we can pick and play and we got to wiggle. But the other piece was she was very versed in the fact that she knew we could work with a bunch of different companies to give the amount of coverage that they wanted, but she was very against doing more than one.
Yeah.
And so she really put Rodney as not a newer agent, but kind of he's experiencing, just like many others, even myself, different scenarios that we're working off of, because everybody's situation is different and every client wants something different. And so he reached out for help, and we had a great appointment yesterday. It was awesome. So getting on the Zoom collectively together last evening, the client had the camera on this time, so that was helpful. But the client actually was off the screen very much. You could pretty much see her ear. And she was very, very reserved, super conservative. She'd done her research, she did her due diligence and whatnot. But she was very pushed back at the fact that, she knew what she wanted. she knew it might be a little tough, but they wanted that and they were going to get it, or we just weren't going to talk anymore. And so in the midst of that, they had a dog that was just going nuts on a squeaky toy. And so I couldn't see the dog, I could hear it, and obviously I figured it wasn't a cat. And so if you guys have know me or spoken to me, I got 2 pups of my own, and I got 3 2-year-olds, 2 of them have fur. Well, if I'm on a Zoom, I'm surprised one of them's not in here right now. They're in my chair. They just want to know what's going on. They want to see everybody and all that. And so about that time, I hear jingling coming into my office, and it's one of mine. He jumps in my lap, and then she gets hers, and then we just had we're dog people, right? So we made a relation. And from that point, the whole demeanor shifted. She went from off the screen to pushing the chair over. Now we're having a face-to-face conversation, and I'm not talking to your ear. And it just kind of broke a little bit of a wall, so to speak, in the beginning. And that helped kind of progress things a little bit further.
Yeah. And so, you also had mentioned to me offline a little bit about humor, about some of the things that you would do to kind of get them to feel comfortable, and talk a little bit about that.
I am very big on making fun of myself. That's always a good thing, because humor, I come from a nursing background too. And, like you elaborate on other things, and endorphins run with humor, and, that fight or flight response is the real thing. And whether it's physical fight or physical run, the mentality internally in your mind is still the same, whether you're actually physically taking that action. And so when someone's reserved and pushed back, I actually explained this to Rodney as well. It's like when you're waiting tables, and this is a big one, you can screw up in the beginning, but you do not mess up when you drop the check off. That's when you can piss somebody off right in the beginning. You can be late to the table, you can mess something up, but you have time to fix it. And so when you give them the check, you want to make sure they're happy, because that's going to reflect on how they view you and your service, that you've offered and whatnot. And so the big thing with it is, I like to cut up my appointments personally, typically run a little longer than most, but I don't have chargebacks. I mean, I got very, very few even in my career, but it's because I have clients, but they turn into friends. And I have a whole, standard that I use. I don't just do a yearly review. I check on them, and I make notes. If, Mrs. Jones' daughter was getting ready to graduate, well, let's say I call in 3 months just to check on her. I'm going to bring that up. And those little details, they're huge for rapport. And at that point, Miss Jones could have made a new friend, her new best friend, Susie. And she's like, oh my gosh, I totally need to get you in touch with her, because, you were able to help us out so much and you're so awesome. Let me make that relation to that. And so, your warm book of business in an appointment, it doesn't matter if you're talking to somebody and what we do for work happens to come up, or me more times than not, I bring it up. That relation from the jump, that dictates everything moving forward. It completely obliterates that I want to think about it. I got to talk to my spouse. It takes objections and just throws them out the window. And it does make a huge difference in your closing percentage, because the beatback bus does not exist. And if somebody is that hard pressed that really wants to think about it, for me, if it gets to that point, I don't push, because I know that I've given them every bit of personalization, rapport, and knowledge for them to make an informed decision, that they're most likely going to talk to me again anyway. And if they don't, no harm, no foul. But I did my best job each and every time I met with somebody.
Oh, absolutely. And you're breaking down a few concepts here that I really want to highlight for the listener. Is A, you talked about the humor aspect, and that humor aspect is really key, because when somebody, typically in most sales scenarios, not all the time, but I'd say at minimum 70% of the time, the client's in their head thinking, just give me the pitch and I'm going to turn this thing over so I can get on with my life, right? Just give me the pitch. And they're very much in a fight or flight mode. And what happens in that fight or flight mode is that your adrenaline is racing, and it it forces you, it kind of creates a chasm between you and the client. And it's kind of this like you said, pushback, where they're kind of like digging in their heels, pushing away, just trying to keep you at arm's length so they can not get you close. Whereas when you make someone laugh and you use humor in a sale or during your process, which if you're not a funny person, don't try this. I mean, or like practice this at least.
Yeah.
Then what that does is that actually floods dopamine and like endorphins to your brain, and it makes you more positive, and it makes you feel good, and it kind of drops those walls down between you and the person you're speaking with, and it makes you kind of lean in and say, and like when she kind of like leaned in and got in the camera.
And then when you add that body piece language, and that's a big thing for me, so I reciprocate because I've been working in sales for half my life. The second I get your attention enough to where you do this, I got you.
Yeah.
Because then I have your attention, and I'm going to mimic that.
Yeah.
If you like you right now, you're relaxed. What am I doing? I'm sitting back too.
Yeah.
But if you come in, I'm gonna. All right. So we're gonna get a little closer, and that's body language is huge, and there's tons of research and reading you can do on it. I mean, it is a very massive correlation in success in closing and building rapport. If
Absolutely.
somebody's physically showing you that they're being attentive, that's the end game. That's what you want. The problem is I've had appointments where and the thing is you can watch it. So if I get off on a tangent a little too much, I can kind of see them going like, land your plane, I'm going to then revert back as quick as possible to do something to grab their attention. But I know at that point, they're going to be more focused on the details of what we're doing and not so much the rapport piece, but they work interchangeably within a meeting.
And so humor is a great way, especially self-deprecating humor. I've told this story before. I'm not going to tell it here, but self-deprecating humor can really break down walls, get them to laugh a little bit, kind of chuckle and see you as a regular human being, like another person, and kind of lean in. So you have that better conversation and they're more willing to listen. The other piece that you're talking about here is really like relationship building. This all kind of stems together. This all builds together, because if you go into a client appointment and you're literally trying to build a long-lasting relationship, you're going to care about the client. You're going to want to know about them. You're going to want to understand their position, what their concerns are, where they're from, what keeps them up at night. And you're going to want to put them in the best position possible because you want to maintain that relationship. If you focus on doing that kind of really, really good customer service or customer experience, and you focus on the relationships, that's when you make sure that you have a good book of business. You're not going to have a ton of chargebacks. You'll have really good consistency. You will get referrals without having to ask, right? And you'll be able to scale your business more appropriately. And so it's good that you showed that. You showed Rodney with the same client he'd already dealt with, right? He'd already spoken to on Zoom. He'd already had an experience with. He got to see it firsthand with you, and he got to see the difference between how you can act with a client, how you can build that relationship, which is a great leadership piece that's also underlying here. It's you took your time. You're not going to get anything out of it other than helping another agent, right? You took your time to really say, hey, let me jump on this appointment with you. Let me kind of show you how I would do it, and let's see what we can get. And here's where the kicker. Here's the big piece here, right? He had his first appointment, which looked like they somehow agreed to do it a second one.
I was surprised.
There was no sale on the table. They do an appointment with you and him, and what's on the table now? What did that end with?
Right. And so to preface that a little bit, the way the conversation changed was she was very pushed back. They have a current IUL they both had each for 15 years. She knew about the cash value. She knew that, it had a floor, but she told me it had a cap. I know for a fact that I could put her in a 10 times better spot by doing 1035 exchange. But I also read the client. I knew for a fact if I kept pushing to try to help alter her product, it was going to end badly. So I tabled that. We moved forward. We got more humorous and whatever. And I just flat out said, look, I'm not here to sell you. I am here to get as much information as you are comfortable giving me. And the more information you give me, the better job I can do for you. And so the purpose of this is I'm coming in 30,000 feet. You guys are jumping out the plane with me with a parachute. We're up here. We got to get all this information, but eventually we're going to hit the ground and we're going to have a couple options. And if it makes sense for you guys, awesome. Let's move forward. And we're your guys. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul. Is that fair? So from that question, moving forward, we go through the financial inventory, which Rodney had already done. I went back through. Well, then we got even more detail because they felt that much more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so long story short, we end up at the end of the call. She was very particular. She didn't want multiple companies, the amount of coverage she wanted. She wanted one company. Well, we did some risk assessments this morning. The gentleman is actually going to be a little substandard, but she gave me a pretty decent budget, and we are looking at a 9,600 minimum AP to get this client exactly what they wanted with little pyramid, but it should pass, no problem. And they're going to get the coverage they want. They're going to be happy. And before we got off the call, guess what she told me? Wow. Well, let's go ahead and get him taken care of, and let's get that done. And the next time we talk, let's make sure that's good. And then let's go ahead and do that review that you wanted to do before. So that was the whole thing. You can't harp on one piece. We're there for the husband. We need to handle that, but doing that correctly, that's going to give the secondary, because I promise you, if she opens up to me about her current, policy she's got in place, I can move them and do wonders for them compared to where they are now, because they're IULs from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Lots changed even in the last 3 to 5 years. Yeah. And so markets are different. The indices, she had no idea what the Barclays was, and you guys may not either, but it's a huge aspect, of IULs currently through certain carriers. And we're probably going to end up getting the husband taken care of. We're probably going to end up doing something different with that, maybe potentially an annuity rollover, who knows. But the difference is we were able to break that threshold, and Rodney was able to see it in real time. And I think that piece is going to stick with him, and he will approach things in a different fashion moving forward. And he'll be able to do that on his own without me being on the meeting.
Yeah. That's so powerful. That's just creating belief, right? And that's one of our core values is believe in the system, believe in yourself, believe in the strategies that you're being taught and applying them, and seeing it firsthand for him, for you to take the time and show him, this is how we take care of clients. This is how we put them in a better position. This is how we're not pushy, right? This is how we relationship build. And you show it to him firsthand, man, that the belief that's being created in Rodney right now, and he's already a really great, just a great mindset, great agent, a little young still in as an agency, or as a life insurance agent. He's still got a lot to learn, but he's hungry, right?
Hardest worker in the room.
Dude, he is a hard worker. And he's just, but dude, he doesn't quit. He just doesn't quit, which is that's a hard quality to find in people. No matter how many times you get knocked down, it's not quitting.
And honestly, the best piece, we had a Zoom this morning going through the risk assessments. We did that collectively too. So we experienced that. So I said, all right, well, here's my availability for the weekend. Why don't you go ahead and, give the client a call. Picks up the phone. Hey, Rodney, totally different than what he's used to. She's in a good mood. She's happy. And she's like, well, today's not really going to work, but could we do Sunday? She goes, I'd really like to have this thing approved and done at least before Christmas. And I told Rodney, yeah, that's doable. But we just got to keep our ducks in a row and get it moving. And so we are meeting again Sunday evening, which I usually don't work Sundays, but it's December. Things kind of slow down on our side of things sometimes to a point. And they want the coverage. So, hey, let's do it. So we're meeting Sunday evening. We're going to knock this thing out, and then we're going to look over on the other side with her, and we're going to move forward. So it's going to be a good deal.
That's so amazing. I love that. So yeah, man, there's a lot that you're breaking out here. And what I want the listeners to take away from this is that you should never, as a leader, you should never be too busy to step in and help another agent as an agency owner, AC manager, to step in, go to an appointment, sit in on a Zoom. Hell, if your agent's in another state and you are, you know, and they're going in home, get on FaceTime. Jump on a FaceTime call and do it. I've done that before multiple times. And I'm telling you, the credibility that it brings when you can do that, and then the belief that you can impart on the agent to help them to be like, that's how simple this was. It's like, yeah, man, you just don't complicate it. And the more you do it, you get more comfortable, and you relax a little bit, and you realize this isn't a game of like perfection of like, I got to say the right thing at the right time in the right way. No, man, you're human.
Right.
Be a human being and have a human conversation. They're going to understand that. Right. And if you don't know something, be like, you know what? I don't really like, I have an idea, like, but I'm not completely sure. Let me go call somebody real quick. Right. Well, let me bring somebody in on this. Right. And I know somebody that I know, they will know it. Right. So what? Right. And so, on top of that, on top of that leadership aspect of like taking the time, it's, you actually do the work so that you are staying sharp, right? And that's the first rule of leadership. You have to lead yourself first. You have to lead yourself first. And if you're not leading yourself first, if you can't do this, how do you expect for you to lead people that are going to be able to do this? You're not going to be able to. And if you do get somebody, if you're a 7 and you hire somebody that's a 9, they're not staying on your team very long. They are not staying on your team.
And also, I mean, to note the other piece. So for those of you, that don't know me or aren't with our company in particular, my role here at Delta is I'm the director of agent development. Rodney is not on my team, guys. He is in a whole different agency, but Rodney graduated career school. He put in the work. He got through everything, and he started just pounding the pavement. And I work with agents fresh out of career school to help expedite them, to get them in the field, get them comfortable, learn their scripts, get out there, get moving. And he did all the work. Well, he and I built a pretty good relationship. And so he calls me for anything. And, he works with Greg. And I mean, that's the thing about Delta. We're company wide. We're not this agency, this one.
Yeah, go call your upline. We don't do
right.
That.
Rodney calls me with any type of concern, things like that. And he's not direct to me. I don't get overrides from him. He's not my agency. But that's part of my role, and I enjoy it. To be completely frank, I'm not a big fan of calling leads, this and that, but it's part of the job. We have to do it. But my favorite piece is meetings. That's my time to shine, my time to get to, meet a client, make a friend, put them in a good spot. I can sleep good at night. That's what I enjoy. And so whenever an agent, I actually have another call 2 hours after now to do another review with another agent that I've never spoken to before in our company, but they reached out and said, hey, I got some questions. I got this DFL in line, but there's a little bit of concern here and there, and I would love to get with you and get your advice on it. I said, cool. Does tomorrow at 2 work? Let's do it. So I'm not getting anything from that, but it's the whole precipice of the bigger picture. And if we're all firing on all cylinders and there's something that I need that I don't know, well, I'm gonna reach out to Greg. I'll reach out to Zach. I'll reach out to Kevin. Whoever's needed. There's another agent. They know and they feel comfortable, and there's 50 different ways they know how to get a hold of me: email, phone, Discord, whatever, Facebook, whatnot. They can reach out, and I'm going, yeah, I can plug in this time. Does that work for you? Cool. And I'm in South Carolina. Ronnie's in Texas. Different time zones. Clients in Texas. We make it work. And at the end of the day, it's if I'm very big on controlling my schedule, but sometimes it happens. But also the other piece is I didn't work for about 10 days because of vacation. So I'm back and I'm hungry too. So yeah, I'll work a little later. It's not a problem. But I mean, it's for the client's benefit. And so
hashtag selfless service, bro. Yep. Another core value. And that's what it's about is like living by those core values, man. Living by those core values. And he's doing it every day, day in, day out, and being the example for other agents. This is something that's going to make an impact on Rodney.
Say the quote again for me about heart and service. I know you.
It's hard to be nervous when your heart's on service.
Yep, that's the one. So yeah, but I mean, and that's what I tell all of my agents too, not just mine, but everybody. If you honestly put the client first, if I can't help a client or put them in a better situation than they're in, I'm not going to be that guy that's going to try to talk them out of doing a product with me. Like, let's say they had, a final expense from 5 years ago. Well, all I can get them now because their health change is a guaranteed issue. I am not going to do that. I'm going to explain to them why they need to stay put. And then I can explain to them also, hey, right now you're in this weird period. We might be able to change that in a couple of years, but right now, I think you're good. I'll tell you what, I got your info. I'll follow back up with you, and you would be hard pressed and so surprised. Not you, but anybody listening. You make that call a year later, they're going to go, holy crap! You remember me? Yes, because I told you I would, and I'm doing it. And that right there, the first question they're going to that you can give to them is, okay, so that policy you set up, right? When was the last time you spoke with that agent? Okay. So as you can see, I'm different. I have your best interests at heart. So, do you mind going through a few, health questions to kind of get some up-to-date things, and maybe I can put you in a better spot. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And then we go from there. It happens. People, they're buying you. They're not buying a product, because at the end of the day, that product they're purchasing, it's not tangible. It's security. But it's a thought of security, because when that product is actually invoked and utilized, we're not here physically on this planet to make sure it happens. So it's our job to do our due diligence and good faith as an agent to work with the heart of service and do the right thing and, be a good person. Be the difference.
Such great nuggets are being dropped on this one. This is a great podcast. I like the way that you're going over everything for the audience. Some of you guys go back and re-listen to this and kind of listen to the things that Joey talks about and how he leads with service and how he uses humor and how he relationship builds and how he takes the additional time afterwards with Rodney just to kind of build out these illustrations and this plan for how they're going to take care of this client. This is amazing. Right. And so, Joey, I appreciate everything that you're doing for Delta. I appreciate you even coming on and talking and sharing this story and your experience. I love having you on, man. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way that they can contact you?
IG that's listed. I'll come up and go right here, so I can see on the screen. Or you can reach me by email. It's J Watkins, first initial last name at deltafinanciallife.com. Or my work cell is 912-312-6600. Yeah. But I mean, the last thing I wanted to say, and it kind of wraps up and ties everything up I've been talking about, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You lead with that statement and everything else falls into place.
Do you know who said that? Mm-mm. Theodore Roosevelt.
No, you know what? I did know that, but I forgot. Yeah.
Theodore Roosevelt.
You got all the quotes. You always want to know.
I read a lot, bro.
You're going to end up posting that one from me, and it's going to say, my IG, and then it's going to say ... Theodore Roosevelt.
Thank you so much for taking part and listening to the Be the Difference podcast. If you watched till now, then I know you got value. Do me a favor. We need your help to grow by word of mouth. That means share this content. Share it on your social media, on your stories. Tell your friends about it. Have people listen to Joey and how he's taking care of agents, how he's jumping on appointments, building relationships, everything that he's doing. But help us to share this content. We're trying to get as much in growth as we can because we're on a mission to help every single agent in the entire industry. Also, if you liked it, do me a favor, go onto the Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review for the content. I would greatly appreciate it. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg.